Hey, everybody, Dom Nicastro, Managing Editor of CMSWire with our latest newbie CMSWire contributor, Nichole Devolites, CX expert. What's going on, Nichole?
Hey, how are you?
Good to connect. We've connected many times over the years, basically in a role of me being a reporter for CMSWire and asking you, like, does this make sense? You being a CX practitioner. But now you're out on your own, you're venturing out into the CX world on your own. And tell us about that little career change.
Yeah, I was one of those fortunate ones where, from the time that CX, voice of the customer, right, all those terms started to come about, it's one of the first to start putting it into practice. And God, that had to have been what, 12, 15 years ago.
Yeah, no
And so
kidding.
it's been nice to be on the forefront of it though, because it has allowed me to kind of branch out and be able to help many organizations as opposed to just one, which has been very fulfilling, but now I'm seeing a growing need. So it was the perfect time.
Good. Well, we wish you the best of luck with that career change.
So,
And we're glad that you're in the midst of all that busy and chaos that you're going through. You're contributing for CMSWire, and today is your debut column, and this video will be in the column. And what I love, Nichole, is that you really these like, and you talked about this at the DX Summit when I interviewed you for a presentation on customer experience and employee experience. We need to write more and talk more about things that happen to us in the customer experience world. Take that event, talk about the lessons learned. And
yeah.
it's exactly what you did in that presentation, and it's exactly what you did in your first piece. And this one comes down to booze. You had a bad experience with booze, with wine. Well, what was that all about? That must have. No one wants to have a bad experience before you start drinking.
First of all, it's very traumatic. No, it's interesting to see how that kind of shapes your experience, and not so much just the booze itself, but the pricing behind it, right? The experience that you have when you go to purchase something that you love to consume or use or whatever it is. And, it doesn't matter if you can afford it or not. It's the fact that there was no communication. And, when you speak more broadly about what that kind of price change does, it shifts something in your brain just a little bit to say, well, gosh, I mean, I could go elsewhere and find that for cheaper, or, maybe it's just the brand and I need to find a new brand. I mean, I don't know that there's a lot of brand loyalty. I can't talk brand loyalists anymore, right?
Yeah.
That are willing to stick with something no matter what.
Yeah. Well, like you said, it was a very dramatic change in price.
Yeah.
And you took the time, you picked that store. There's many choices to
Yeah.
go, and you picked that store. It's been your go-to, one of your go-tos. But you were surprised in a bad way.
Yeah.
No, people hate surprises unless it benefits them.
Yeah.
And I'll give you an example. Like when I order like a Domino's, right? If they throw in a extra pizza, like, because hey, you're a loyal customer, bring it on. That was so nice of them. But the opposite, like a 70 or whatever it was percent markup in price without any communication is kind of insane. And it drove you away.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it triggers something to start really reassessing how you're spending, right? And it doesn't even have to be just consumer based. This could be you're working with a vendor and the same thing happens. I mean, it really could happen in any scenario. And it's just this little thing that makes you rethink, how you're purchasing, how you're budgeting. And it sometimes can, I know with my brain, it'll just continue to spin until we get to the end of that. But for consumers, especially at a time like this, just in general with spending, it is a bit of a shock, and it was a bit of a shock. And I think as you read through the article, you'll see there is definitely a price disparity between this particular store and the rest of the stores that sell this particular product. So,
Nichole, do you think that customer experience teams in this situation, let's say it has to be with the wine brand. I don't know who determines that price, the grocery store or the wine brand, probably the wine brand, right? Because they marked it up. So the grocery store had to mark it up, whatever. But are customer experience teams not getting enough involved in those discussions? Because a customer experience professional, like a chief customer officer, someone like you, could envision what that customer will be experiencing when they see that price change. And who generally does price changes? Should
right.
CX get more involved?
Yeah, I think CX should be involved, and I think historically they're not. And I think that it's something that most people don't think, well, a price change, is that really something that's customer experience? It is. Everything that relates back to the customer in some way is part of customer experience. And in the case of pricing today, historically, it's been within sales, it's been within the C-level, right? Or whoever's going to be setting that pricing from a business perspective. They don't really think about how that's going to impact the customer. Usually it's a very nominal increase. It's not something as dramatic as this. When you're alluding to that wine brand, yes, they set the initial price, but they set it at a wholesale. So anything that comes after that retail markup is something that is determined by the store. In the case of the store, I don't think CX was anywhere near it, nor do I think they thought about it. And I think that's the second part to CX professionals is this is something we need to start thinking about, is at least being involved with the conversations, finding ways to maybe have focus groups or even just a subset of customers that have been loyal for a long time. Hey, how would you feel about this? What's your threshold, right? Those kind of questions don't hurt.
Yeah, and a little research into nearby competitors, what their prices are, for their wines and stuff like that. They would have kind of found out a little more and would have been a little more thoughtful in that price rollout. Well, all right. So we, in your DX Summit presentation, you talked about vacations and food. You had experiences there. Now it's wine. Nichole, I can't wait to see what you come up with next in your personal life that relates to CX.
Yeah.
It's the way to do it, when you have those, everyone has experiences, so why not write about them?
Yeah.
And that's unique to you.
Yeah. And it's something where when you really are a CX professional, you start paying attention to the world around you a little bit differently, right? And I've had a lot of great experiences, and I need to start writing about those, so it doesn't look like I complain all the time. But you take inspiration from it. I know I've taken inspiration from some of these experiences and brought them into my own programs. And I think that's the way to go. We're all learning from each other, right?
Yeah. Devolites is coming. Put the good stuff out. Devolites is coming. She's gonna write about it. She's gonna write about it on CMSWire.com. Well, great opening column. Appreciate it. Last question. What kind of things are exciting you in the realm of customer experience and possible future articles?
Yeah. So, I am a big fan of technology, and kind of seeing how that's going to play a role. I think a lot of times we get hung up on statistics and how to automate, right? But there's a whole other piece of how technology can do really cool things. You alluded to something with metaverse. I won't get into it now, and seeing what AI can do and things like that. And where's that perfect blend between making sure that that human interaction is still there, right? As well as blending it with, the new wave of tech that's coming and how people are eventually going to adapt to that. And so for me, I see that being on the forefront and what we're going to be exploring over the next few years.
Perfect. Looking forward to it. Nichole D, thank you for being part of the CMSWire contributor family and a debut article. Looking forward to many more.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good one.
You too.
All right. Bye.